You won't believe what just happened on late night television. Donald Trump is Furihausen for once. It's not about the polls or prosecutors. Nope. This time, it's because Jimmy Kimmel just tore into one of Trump's loyal spokespeople so viciously, the FCC probably had to check if savage comedy violates broadcast law. And let's just say, it wasn't pretty. What started as a regular monologue turned into a full-blown comedic beatdown, and the punchlines, they were so sharp, they could cut through steel and apparently Trump's ego. But wait till you hear what Kimmel pulled out on stage.
Isn't that sweet? He's confused me with one of his sons again. Do you think he's flirting with me? What is this?
I said, he's one of the dumbest human beings ever. He should have listened to his wife. What a dope.
I would like that to be the clip they play at the Emmys in memoriam montage. He even worked my wife in there. Should I be worried that Trump has mentioned my wife more times at his rallies this year than his own?
President Trump will mark Women's History Month by the exceptional women around our country.
The reason why we're having this conversation is because we are you.
And importantly, after I do that and I some the chow hall.
Worked my wife in there. Should I be worried that Trump has mentioned my wife more times at his rallies this year than his own? I also want to point out the Oscars were more than 6 months ago. He's still stewing over this joke. He keeps bringing it up.
Real quick before we dive deeper, if you're enjoying this kind of content, go ahead and tap that like button and hit subscribe. Over 92% of viewers watching right now aren't subscribed, and your support makes all the difference. Alright, let's get back to this wild ride. So, here's the scene. Jimmy Kimmel's doing his usual nightly rundown of political madness when suddenly he zeroes in on Karoline Leavitt, Trump's latest spokesperson, and, apparently, his most enthusiastic echo chamber. And let me tell you, Kimmel didn't just roast her, he turned her into a comedic bonfire. With that sly grin we all know too well, Jimmy set up the segment with a deceptively innocent question. Have you noticed how Trump's new press secretary defends him? You could feel the crowd lean in because when Kimmel gets that twinkle in his eye, you know someone's about to get obliterated. And boy did he deliver. He likened Leavitt to a MAGA parrot, mindlessly repeating whatever bizarre stream of consciousness Trump lets slip out of his mouth, no matter how nonsensical. Picture it, a political ventriloquist act where the dummy doesn't even blink. The studio went wild as Jimmy launched into a full-on impersonation Leavitt, standing in front of her bathroom mirror, rehearsing Trump defenses like it's opening night on Broadway. No, that's not what he meant, he squeaked in a mock voice. The media is twisting his words again, and just when you thought it couldn't get more ridiculous, Kimmel took it up a notch. Out came the prop something only he would dare bring on stage. A huge, oversized binder labeled "Excuses for when Trump does something stupid," and trust me, you'll want to hear what's inside, and wait till you hear what he does with it. The crowd was losing it, clutching their stomachs and gasping for air as Kimmel flipped through the binder. As Kimmel flipped through that monster-sized binder full of preloaded Trump excuses, it stopped being just a joke. It was a full-on political roast, delivered with the precision of a sniper and the wit of a stand-up pro. Each absurd scenario felt crazier than the last. Trump accidentally declaring war through a rogue tweet? Check. Insulting a foreign leader's wife mid-sandwich? Yep, that's in there too. But then came the knockout punch. Jimmy pauses, looks dead into the Camerano smile, just that razor-sharp delivery, and says, "I bet Karoline Leavitt's job interview had exactly one question. How good are you at saying Trump is innocent?" With a straight face, the studio exploded. It was one of those moments where you almost miss the next joke because you're still laughing from the last one, and Kimmel knew it. He doubled down immediately, jumping into a mock Leavitt impersonation. Full salute, big cheesy grin. The whole "yes sir, I pledge eternal loyalty to the Orange Overlord" routine. It was part SNL, part therapy session for anyone who's ever watched a press conference and thought, are they really saying that with a straight face? But just when you thought it couldn't possibly go further, it did. Out came a Leavitt impersonator, and not just any impersonator. This one was fully suited up in a blindingly bold "Trump is my spirit animal" t-shirt, marching across the stage like she was headed to a cosplay convention hosted by conspiracy theorists. What happened next? You honestly had to see it to believe it. The impersonator starts delivering lines that sound like they were pulled straight out of a fever dream. Even if President Trump accidentally launched nuclear weapons trying to order McDonald's, she says, "it would actually be a brilliant strategy to confuse our enemies," deadpan. No hesitation. Like she'd rehearsed that defense in the mirror for weeks. The audience lost it. People were wiping away tears, clutching their stomachs, gasping for air. But beneath all the laughter, there was a shift. Something deeper started to surface, because the sketch was slowly shifting from funny to uncomfortable, and that's where Kimmel thrives. The jokes didn't stop, but Jimmy's delivery started to dip into something more thoughtful, more biting. He looked out over the crowd and, with a quieter, almost introspective tone, asked, "Do you think she really believes the stuff she says?" That hit differently. He continued like, "Does Karoline Leavitt go home, look in the mirror and think, yeah, that was the truth today? Or does she just clock out and cash the check?" And suddenly, it wasn't just a joke anymore, it was a gut check. Because this wasn't about a press secretary fumbling through excuses. This was about conscience, about what it costs to defend the indefensible, about how far someone is willing to go not for truth, but for loyalty. And in that moment, Jimmy wasn't just talking about Karoline Leavitt, he was talking about all of them. Every political mouthpiece who trades honesty for a headline, who swaps values for visibility. And just when you thought Kimmel had reached the peak, he pushed one step further. 17 separate posts. It felt like watching a car crash unfold, except this time, the car was a gold-plated golf cart, and the driver was screaming in all caps. Each post spiraled further into absurdity. Unfunny Jimmy is a national disgrace. Late night is dead just like Biden's brain. RIP. Regulate these jokers before they destroy America's soul. People couldn't tell if he was joking or seriously suggesting federal oversight on stand-up comedians. Either way, Twitterer, what's left of it, was on fire. Memes went viral, and hashtags like #TeapotGate and #UnfunnyJimmy trended in an instant. But here's the kicker. Trump didn't just turned his meltdown into the perfect punchline, proving Kimmel's point in real time. The overreaction, the name-calling, the inability to laugh at himself, it all fed perfectly into the satire. Kimmel didn't even need a response segment. Trump had done the punchline himself. The next evening, back at the late-night studio, Kimmel returned with his signature smirk. The glint in his eyes said it all. And the crowd, already bracing for the punchline they knew was coming. "I guess we hit a nerve," he said, holding up Trump's social media rant so thick it could double as a novella. "I haven't seen this many all caps since Kanye tried to explain quantum physics." The laughter thundered through the room, but Kimmel didn't gloat. Instead, he leaned in just a bit and delivered the line that tied the whole saga together. "Here's the thing," he said. "If your response to being made fun of is demanding the government regulate comedy, maybe the problem isn't the jokes. Maybe it's you." It wasn't just a punchline, it was a truth bomb. This drama Kimmel's roast, the impersonator, Trump's meltdown wasn't just about politics. It was about what happens when power becomes so fragile it can't even handle a joke. And maybe that's what made the whole thing land so hard. It wasn't just funny, it was terrifyingly real. And if Trump's goal was to protect Karoline Leavitt from scrutiny, mission definitely failed. Because by the time he was done rage posting, Kimmel didn't even need to write a new monologue. Former president had practically written it for him. The headlines wrote themselves. Trump melts down over Kimmel skit, late night host lives rent-free in X, president's head, Karoline Leavitt now trending for all the wrong reasons. It was like a PR tornado, except instead of spinning houses, it was spinning narrative sand. Leavitt's credibility was somewhere in Oz. Meanwhile, late-night comedy shows across the board joined the party. Colbert, Meyers, even John Oliver chimed in with their own takes, turning Trump's tantrum into a cross-platform roast fest. The internet, predictably, lost its mind. Memes exploded like popcorn. One viral video dubbed Trump's 17-post meltdown over dramatic opera music, cutting to a fake Kimmel reaction video where he simply sipped tea like Kermit the Frog, but beyond the memes and the mockery, something deeper was bubbling up. Kimmel's original question was still echoing. At what point does loyalty stop being noble and start becoming pathetic? And America, whether they admitted it or not, was starting to really think about that. Leavitt, once relatively obscure, had become a symbol of something much larger. Not just blind loyalty, but the performance of loyalty. The kind where facts don't matter, only fealty does. The kind that gets rewarded not for truth-telling, but for towing the line, no matter how crooked that line gets. And Trump's outburst? It didn't protect her. It spotlighted her. It amplified everything Kimmel was trying to say in the first place. In a way, the whole fiasco was almost poetic. A late-night comedian cracked a few jokes, and the most powerful man in MAGA world responded not with grace, not with humor, but with full-throttle digital rage. Instead of disproving the satire, he validated it. Instead of silencing the criticism, he megaphoned it. All while Leavitt stayed silent, as if unsure whether to thank him or ask him to please stop making it worse. In the end, the sketch wasn't just funny, it was prophetic. A satire that unfolded in real time, with Trump himself playing the punchline. And as the week wound down, one thing became clear. Jimmy Kimmel didn't just roast Trump's press secretary, he held up a mirror to the entire MAGA movement and dared them to laugh. And that's what really made Trump squirm. Because deep down, even he knows this wasn't about secret tapes or some buried dossier. It was about something far more threatening to the MAGA image. The idea that people, smart people, might be willingly playing a part they don't believe in. That behind the polished deflections and rehearsed sound bites, there could be a flicker of self-awareness, of doubt, of humanity. That's the comedy Kimmel weaponized so effectively. Not character assassination, but character interrogation served with a smile and a punchline. And here's where it really gets uncomfortable. Once the laughs fade, the audience is left wondering, what if Kimmel's right? What if this whole theatrical defense of Trump isn't rooted in blind belief, but in professional calculation? What if Leavitt's polished defenses aren't signs of conviction, but symptoms of survival in a political ecosystem that demands unwavering allegiance? Because let's be honest, Kimmel didn't need to invent some shocking twist. The absurdity was already there, front and center, wearing a press badge and defending a man who once suggested, "We inject bleach." When satire sticks, it's because people recognize a truth hiding beneath the laugh track. And Kimmel's monologue wasn't just about Leavitt, it was about all of us watching this political circus and pretending it's normal. The punchlines weren't just for entertainment. They were little hammers, chipping away at the facade, exposing how surreal our expectations have become. We now live in a world where defending a naked lawn dance by a former president could actually be considered a political strategy, and nobody even blinks. That's not a comedy sketch, that's real life. So while Trump fumed and furiously posted, while MAGA loyalists circled the wagons, and while Karoline Leavitt stayed silent behind carefully curated press releases, the rest of the country was left with something far more powerful than outrage. They were left with a laugh and a question. A quiet, unsettling question that lingers long after the show's over. What are we really defending anymore? Because in a world where the truth has become optional and loyalty is demanded like a blood oath, sometimes the only thing left to do is laugh. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most dangerous act of all. You almost have to admire the irony. The so-called shocking secrets exposed were nothing more than obvious truths wrapped in comedy, yet somehow they caused a political earthquake. It's like watching someone flip a table because they found out water is wet. The whole thing was satire about exaggeration exaggerated. A comedy segment calling out a press secretary for robotic loyalty sparked a meltdown from a former president whose career was built on outrage and overstatement. That's not just irony, it's the Ouroboros of modern politics devouring its own absurdity. Trump didn't lose it because Kimmel uncovered a scandal. He lost it because someone dared to say what everyone was thinking with a grin. That's what really cuts deep. Because when comedy dares to speak the truth, especially when it's right there in plain sight, it becomes dangerous to people who thrive on denial and distortion. Trump's tantrum was proof that Kimmel hit a nerve so exposed, it didn't take much to trigger a full-blown explosion. And that's what makes this story so telling. In an era where politicians expect absolute loyalty and zero accountability, a simple late-night joke becomes a lightning rod. Not because it's wrong, but because it's too right to ignore. Trump's reaction wasn't strength, it was panic. It was ego lashing out at the one thing it can't control: public perception. The more he raged, the more obvious it became he can dish it out. But he definitely can't take it. And that, right there, is why comedy still matters. It's not just about getting laughs, it's about truth. Stripped of spin, delivered with a gut punch of honesty, and here at Hollywood Saga, that's exactly what we bring you. No fluff, no fake outrage, just the stories behind the spectacle and the truth behind the tantrums. So if you're tired of the noise and ready to hear what's really going on behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and join us as we break down the drama, the hypocrisy, and yes, Evan, the comedy that exposes it all. Because if this entire meltdown taught us anything, it's this: the truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to make you laugh. And to quote the man who started this whole firestorm, I'd like to apologize for absolutely nothing.